This episode of Ticket Volume is brought to you by us, InvGate. Get service operations under control in no time. Get 1 free month of our software solution by going to try.invigate.com. Ticket Volume brings you the Associate Director of Customer Support for Princeton University. He's been a solution architect at Tech Systems, the Service Desk Manager at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, as well as other IT and project roles in his tenure. Welcome to Ticket Volume, news and information for improving service experiences. I'm your host, Matt Barron, and I chat with different leaders to share insights on service management, technology, business, and this episode is no exception. Speaking of, what are you looking to learn more about? Leave a comment, connect with us, or share our podcast with someone. Now let's begin. Welcome, Jason Turner.
Hey there, Matt. How are you today?
Good. Welcome to Ticket Volume. Thanks for taking some time to be here. We had a chance to catch up recently at a conference, and you've got some great experience, not only in your past that I mentioned during the introduction, but also where you're at right now. You're going through this awesome transition to start something new. And I've been trying to share more details about like operations, where the rubber meets the road on a service desk. And we got talking a little bit about service desk quality and improving service across the industry. So let's break it down. What have you seen in your past or in your current situation where you're working towards quality and service?
So, a lot of what we do is very people-oriented, right? We're the tip of the spear, the feet on the street, we're that initial interaction that, most employees have, with their IT organization is through their service desk. So what we're looking to do is, really improve, mature, more consistent customer experience, during their interactions with our service desk analysts. So a big part of that, is observing, right? So we want to, really get a good handle on what that customer contact is like. And I'm new to Princeton University, but I've used some of these techniques at other organizations. And in fact, we'll be introducing these, in a short period of time. And so one of them is, what I'll call just call monitoring. And you can do call monitoring a couple different ways. The classic is a side-by-side, right? A supervisor jacks in, sits next to an agent, and observes for an hour. And those are really good observations. I would only add is that I think agents are sometimes stressed during that, when somebody's looking over their shoulder. And
of course.
People tend to be like on their best behavior when like they know for sure that they're being observed. Again, it's in our arsenal. It's part of our bag of tricks, and I would not discourage anybody from doing those as well. And in fact, we are doing those now. But this another way, is we record our calls. We want to, we record the interaction itself. And then we want to do a random sample and listen to those calls offline. We want to scorecard them so that when we're sitting, with an agent, during their monthly one-on-ones, we're actually talking about real things that happened, in their support life, in their interactions with their callers, and it becomes really pointed. It becomes very real world, and I think it's one of those things that really can improve quality in a support organization.
Yeah. When we talk about rubber hitting the road, this is it.
Right. It's
every call is recorded. You're listening to an actual interaction between a customer and your agent. And you're right. It's like just pick out of the 1,000 calls this month. How many do we want to review? Maybe you're pre-listening to those calls and looking for stuff you're going to coach on, or, just seeing if it's a password reset and you can forget it.
And now,
so how did you get started on something like this?
Sure. So I think most service desks, record calls. We'll call it a subset of the call center industry, and call centers tend to record calls. I'm sure you've called a call center in your life where they said, this call will be monitored for quality purposes. That's exactly what this is. This is the quality purposes part of that. And, if I were to go 5 or 10 years ago, we're just listening to the audio, right? We've recorded the audio. You've got a 10-minute customer interaction, and you're listening to that interaction in its entirety. There are challenges with that, so when somebody puts somebody on hold, right? So there's dead air. What are they doing? And you're listening to it kind of in real time. And, so there are now some better ways, to do this, obviously through technology. And what we're doing now. So, 2023, we're not only recording the audio with the calls, but we're recording the video as well. So by being able to see what's going on when there's dead air, did that analyst consult the knowledge base? Did they look at prior tickets, with similar error codes and problems, and seeing what the resolutions are? Did they send an instant message to their peer? Hey, have you seen this before? But all of those things, can be visualized now because, we're not just recording the audio, we're recording the video. And we also now have the ability, when, I can kind of cut to the chase. I don't have like the niceties. How was your weekend? And those kinds of things, we kind of fast forward through those. And then the other interesting thing that these solutions are doing now is that they're actually converting voice to text. So when we're doing our monitoring, I'm actually able to read as well as listen. And that recording, that the speech to text part has the capability to do speech dynamics. So we're looking for the sentiment of that call. Is it negative sentiment or positive sentiment? When somebody says, I really want to speak to your manager, like that's negative sentiment. When they drop an F-bomb or this is BS, there's no negative sentiment there that we want to dive into a little bit. And also an interesting thing is like when two people are speaking at the same time, they're kind of talking over each other, like that would kind of flag as negative sentiment as well. So now, in a desk with, thousands of interactions a month, and, and we're striving to talk, we're striving to listen and scorecard 5 interactions. Well, is it a random 5? Which ones are those 5? So now, I know that I'll probably be focusing on the ones that had negative sentiment. I'll focus on the ones that had a lot of hold time. So when there's, a 10-minute call, I'll know that there were, 400 seconds of dead air, no speaking. So that might be something that I'll listen to because maybe, an agent or an analyst was struggling with that. So, so again, the improvements that have been made, in this class of solution have been, pretty remarkable in the last 5 years.
It's a good way of putting it, because I'm listening to your stories and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I would have killed for this as a help desk manager.
Right,
first
yeah,
of
kind
all.
of the Holy Grail.
Yeah, yeah. And we should mention the technology specifically because I want people to know, like, who is the technology that's providing
So the one
this?
that I have the most experience with is from a company called Calabrio, and they have a very, capable, mature, full-featured, offering. They do a lot of things, in the call center space. We're not talking about, the kind of modeling and forecasting and workforce management, but those are capabilities, that are in. It ties in directly to your ACD system, the cloud-based solution, and it's really smart and continues to get smarter.
Nice, man. You can really tell how all of this combined together is really going to amp up those coaching opportunities. Like, it just seeing it happen. You should have searched for a knowledge article here, and here's why.
Right.
And like just showing them historically. And it really is about just repetition and getting those behaviors to change, because it's not they're not untrained, they're not unprofessional. They just forget the things. Sometimes you just forget what levers are sitting in
Right.
front
When
of
you're
you.
in the heat of the battle, right? You're like, okay, I may have used, there's a different tool I could have used.
Yeah.
It's not infrequent that you go down a rabbit hole. And
Uh,
so when that happens, like those are good conversations, to have. One of the things that I'll share with you, Matt, is when these solutions, being because we record our calls, when a call goes south, when a call just
yeah.
is not a good interaction. It's not good because a caller, was rude or disrespectful. It wasn't good because my agent fed into that negativity and didn't de-escalate. So I have a real story to share with you. We had, one of those calls, and they're rare. I mean, this is, a mature, capable team, and and one of my agents who had been there for like 9 years. So, a really calm, confident,
Seasoned.
reassuring person. You would not have
Uh-huh.
expected a call to go south on, but it did. And I
Uh-huh.
called him into my office and we closed the door and we listened to the call together. And, we talked about, how this could have gone differently. And he didn't disagree. I mean, he certainly apologized. And, I don't think it, in fact, I cannot think of another time that anything like that ever happened again. But I asked him if I could play this call in a staff meeting because I thought it was just a really good lesson.
Yeah.
And while certainly kind of painful and uncomfortable for the agent in question, I really thought it was going to be a good lesson. And he said yes. And I really appreciate it because again, like I don't necessarily want one of my not shining moments shared with my colleagues, but he knew that there were some new people on the team that this really would be a good lesson. And we listened to the call, together at a meeting. And then we kind of all talked about, how we can de-escalate these situations and, bring it back into attention and focus on what the real problem is. And, let me help you and get, to the resolution. And having this at my fingertips, proved to be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what a hats off to you for creating a culture where that vulnerability can exist. Cause I think that is kind of that is the challenge. I'm going to be out there. You're going to actually be listening to this what I thought was a private conversation with a customer,
Right. Yeah.
and we're going to pick it apart. And that is difficult. Was it shared with just the service and support team or greater IT in general?
Just my team. I mean, I certainly
Okay.
could have, shared it. And another good thing about these technologies, especially because you're recording the video as well. Like when
Uh-huh.
you're remote controlling into an employee's computer, it's one thing for me to document the problem. It's one thing
Uh-huh.
for me to even just give a screenshot. I got a screenshot, but when you get the whole video of like what the real situation is, now like I can append that to the ticket so that if we're escalating it, it goes to, an engineer. They're actually seeing what happened. It's not just, not just what somebody typed, not just a screenshot, but they're seeing exactly what happened because we've recorded, not just the audio, but the video as well. And when I have asked for some things, it's one thing to tell me, it's another thing to show me, and the show me just carries a lot of weight.
Man, my futurist is like already kicking in and like, oh, every ticket is going to be fully recorded and appended to a ticket from now on. And then the cloud space question comes up, like, how do we store all those trillions of terabytes of data? But yeah, I totally get it. Like tier two, they're not going to just send it right back saying, hey, you didn't do this. They're going to watch that video or they're going to, sort through it really quickly or look through the transcript to see where their part comes in. Everyone benefits,
And it
not
actually
just
begs
tier one.
you actually hit on something that we did, which was, there's, each recording has a unique URL, right?
Uh,
So that URL, through an API, got embedded in we happen to use ServiceNow, got embedded in the ServiceNow incident So you literally were a click away from listening to the audio and watching the video of that call. So again, it wasn't
Man,
fully downloaded or embedded in ServiceNow, kind of cluttering things. The Calabrio did its part, and ServiceNow did its part, and a single click away to get to it.
wow, man. This kind of brings me back to Mauricio Corona's episode where he talks about how the service desk is kind of like this engine for data for AI to provide suggestions, not only to service and support, but to everyone. And you could see how seeing these videos and hearing this audio, combine that with an engine to review that and, pick through all that data, how that could, really help the agent in the moment be coached, AI coaching, or even afterwards, like through that sentiment analysis. Hey, we noticed, on Mondays, you're more angry with your customers than you are on Fridays, and then you can look at your staffing models and say, okay, this person is not a morning person. Maybe they're doing some of the project management stuff in the morning, and then later they're hopping on calls or something like that.
Yeah.
So where would you go with this next? Like, what improvements would you make? What actions have you taken? How do you change what you do based on this?
So I'm going to take this to, how am I better coaching our analysts, so that they know how their specific contribution benefits the service desk, directly impacts our metrics. And when you kind of put a bow around it, where they can really see, and, like, it's one thing when you share your first contact resolution metrics, right? So, that's an important metric for a service desk or our abandonment rate. And like, how does that, how do I tie that directly to an individual analyst contribution? And that really was kind of the challenge, that we wanted to address. And I think we did a good job with it. And the challenge is that data is like all over the place, so we kind of created 4 categories. And again, when a supervisor or a manager, has that productive one-on-one time with somebody, we're looking at the numbers. We're looking at actually, like what happened, so for instance, we track presence, right? So that's important for a call center. We've created optimized schedules based on call arrival patterns and our desired service level attainment. So you being in your chair, ready to take calls, so we call it presence. So that's, did you clock in late or did you leave early? We schedule breaks, we schedule lunches. Did you take too long for a break? Did you take too long for lunches? And, your kind of overall, what I'll call not ready time. And most ACD systems, track not ready time. There's certainly some naturally that occurs in your environment, but you kind of want to see, where they're at compared to, to their peers. Another category, that we look at is operational performance. So, what is this specific agent's first contact resolution results? That's something that we can, track and see, is this helping or hurting, our overall department's, FCR goals.
Yeah.
Another one is, and this comes again, like this data is coming from all over the place, right? So presence data is coming from our timekeeping system and from our ACD system. Some stuff's coming from ServiceNow, some stuff's coming from Calabrio. So bringing it all together was quite a challenge, but certainly, beneficial and rewarding. So another metric that we look at is called a RONA. So ring on, no answer. So your phone rang, but you didn't answer it, and then it bounced to the next person. So that would be a ding. That would be a negative. We want that to be, a lower number. And then their scorecard, so again, we're doing that 5 calls a month. We're pulling up a scorecard to see, did they do the greeting correctly? Did they ask for permission to put somebody on hold? Were they courteous? Were they empathetic? Did they document the ticket correctly? All those kind of elements of what a quality interaction, would be. So we kind of aggregate that into, into a score. And, some things are weighted more important, than others. So we do have some weightings, on that. And then, what we'll call quality, right? So, so in that quality, we have, if a incident gets escalated,
Uh,
and that person, that engineer, technician, felt in their opinion that that incident could have or should have been resolved by the service desk, they can tag that. And that's this kind of feedback loop that we look, and we obviously we want fewer, tag tickets, but those taggings are actually the basis for some really great conversations,
uh,
with our break fix teams, with unified communications teams, because now you're looking at, like, again, the real transaction, and maybe we didn't have a good knowledge base article, maybe we didn't train somebody, maybe we needed better training, on these things. So, and by tagging them, creates, really good fodder for productive conversations. We're looking at your average handle time. Do you take a long time to resolve a ticket? Do you take a short time? Again, that in and of itself isn't a good or bad conversation. If but some of the things that you might see is that, wow, this guy's average handle time is great. He's knocking them out in 4 minutes, but then his customer sat isn't good, right? He's resolving stuff, but maybe didn't totally resolve it, or maybe he rushed and tried to get through the call. So
yeah.
so his volumes are great, right? And this guy's answering 50, 60 calls a day, but not necessarily doing a good job. Lower first contact
Uh,
resolution, lower customer sat. This paints a real picture, and as a subject of a really good heart-to-heart productive conversation, with your analyst. And then, so that was three. The fourth category that we look at is, I'm calling it generally customer satisfaction. So it's your customer sat scores that come from ServiceNow, and customer sat surveys from there. But we also have a program called Bravos. So if it's a reward and recognition program. If somebody goes above and beyond, we'll note that in their their monthly one-on-ones as well.
uh,
And all these things are like drill downable. So it's like one thing to look at the metric, it's another thing to double click and drill down and actually see the transactions. So so that's all kind of part and parcel of what I like to think of as a good quality management program.
I love it. It makes so much sense. I'm already envisioning in my head, like, you've got this dashboard that the agent and you can review, and there's all this data on it for you to just go through. And the agent gets the advantage of just seeing it all in one spot and understanding how they're performing. And the manager or the leader or the team lead that's working with them, they get the opportunity to talk through that stuff objectively. Like, there's very little subjectivity to it, and that creates a good improvement opportunity, as long as you're creating that awesome culture of vulnerability.
Yes.
And then you can see, like, okay, this is the improvement plan. You need to work on your soft skills. Here's how you're going to do that. Your average handle time is going to go up. Next time we meet, I want to see that handle time go up. And I want to see the CSAT go up. And here are some tips to go through that. Just beautiful. I mean, and creating those opportunities for those learning moments, like tagging tickets. I think that's just a great idea altogether. Kind of surprised that we don't have a name for that. You know what I'm saying? That ITIL doesn't have a name for that, or
Right.
there's no framework for that. But we all know what
But it
you're
was really
talking about.
actually easy. It sounds like something that might be hard, but
No,
I mean, we literally just tagged the ticket, and we actually had like these little shorthand codes, like,
yeah,
it could be tagged because not enough documentation, or, it wasn't clear, or you escalated to the wrong group. Like, that's a reason that you would kind of get tagged. So again, those little things, that can blow up and become big things because they become habit forming. We want to nip those habits in the bud, and only by getting that feedback, it's some people might look at it as confrontational. I don't.
uh,
I always looked at it as good constructive feedback from from our downstream people, right? So we're, again, front line, and if we can't resolve it, we want to make sure that that we're providing accurate information, that we've coded the ticket correctly, correct priority, urgency, etc.
Yeah. Because it is part of continual service improvement, right?
Yeah.
We're at the bottom of the stream. We're at the mouth of the river going into the ocean. Like, this is the last chance that people have to get their stuff working. And it makes it that much easier. And that, I think, is the point, actually, is that it doesn't have to be difficult. ITIL doesn't have to tell you have to do it. Just come up with something that works for your team. Call and tag tickets, put some shorthand on it, and just see how it works. Just try that out. Someone posted recently in the Back to ITSM LinkedIn group, which if you're not a part of, go check it out. Back to ITSM, the number 2.
I will have to check. I'm in a couple groups, but I don't think that one, so I'm going to check it out. Thanks.
So, someone posted recently, hey, what was your first ITIL project like? And I thought it was a great question. It brought me back to remember that we started off with a very ITIL v3 focused incident and request process. It was great. And our team didn't need a lot of overhead when it came to problem and change management and just adding them. We just came into it thinking, okay, what's going to work for us, and try stuff out. If it works, great. If it doesn't, let's adjust. And this is like just a great example of how you can do this on your service desk with your agents. So, Jason, where can people connect and learn more?
So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm an active LinkedIn participant, and Jason Turner. I don't remember what it's funny. I'm on Twitter, and I'm a Twitter reader as opposed to a Twitter poster. But I do have some good people that I follow. Matt, you happen to be one of them. And I always appreciate, the content and your perspective, on ITSM, and certainly, I would encourage people to participate in HDI. I happen to be an officer in the Philadelphia chapter of HDI. Great community, for some people that are going to listen to your podcast. They will have a local chapter that they can participate in. If you don't live near an active, local chapter, there's a national virtual chapter, and again, great networking, and it's always you'll find your peers are always willing to share.
I love it. Great suggestion. Go check out HDI at thinkhdi.com. And Jason, thank you for joining us on Ticket Volume.
Great, Matt. Good luck with your future podcasts.
Thank you so much. And to our audience, thanks for listening to this episode. We've got a bunch more out there. There's a lot more coming. There's a huge back catalog now, so make sure to subscribe to receive an alert every time there's a new episode. You can also submit a specific topic or guest by DMing me or leaving a comment on Ticket Volume's LinkedIn page. And speaking of that, if you liked today's podcast or want to share feedback, please leave us a review. The algorithms really reward us for that stuff. This podcast is brought to you by InvGate, the all-in-one IT service and asset management system that helps organizations with world-class IT support teams. If you're looking for a solution to build your help desk without the headaches of year-long implementations, you will love InvGate. In fact, IT teams from NASA, Toyota, and McDonald's use InvGate to manage requests, automate workflows, and centralize inventory data so that they can focus on delivering better service. Because remember, good service is good business.